what we can tell in that sense is that artificial intelligence is probably the fastest growing frontier technology that the world has seen since the arrival of the internet as a mass distribution technology 25 years ago. We estimate in our report that artificial intelligence could grow by a factor of 25 times in the next 10 years, and it can become something, in terms of market size, something like $4.8 trillion. Just to put this into perspective, this is equivalent to the GDP of Germany today. So it's a very, very significant market. It's also moving very, very fast, and it's changing at a speed that outspeeds the pace at which governments and society can understand what is happening and can adapt. And we also see that in terms of impact in economies, it is very unequal, very uneven. We can see a very few advanced economies benefiting from it already, but the vast majority of countries in the world are not in the same position. First of all, one has to say that there are many contradictory studies around the possible impact of artificial intelligence on job markets. What we see is still based on a very limited experience about what companies will do with this technology. Most businesses are learning in what parts of their business artificial intelligence can help, and in what parts maybe it's not so helpful. So all estimates have to be taken with a big grain of salt. We anticipate that there are two possible ways in which artificial intelligence can affect workers. One, particularly for people with high skills, it can make them significantly more productive, and therefore can increase the demand for this kind of workers. And it can result in the emergence of new work opportunities for people with the right skills. For people with less developed skills, not at the bottom of the labor pyramid, but also not at the top, it can result in work losses, because at least the models that we have now are quite able to replace that kind of workers. Workers with a certain amount of cognitive abilities, cognitive skills, but not enough to be at the very top layer. So for those people, it is important that governments invest in retraining opportunities so that they can identify niches in which the artificial intelligence will not have a major impact. Overall, we don't agree with the most pessimistic expectations. We think that after a period of adaptation, like other productivity enhancing technologies, artificial intelligence could have a positive impact on employment and on welfare levels. But you need proactive policy from the governments to prevent the most negative effects. We definitely need policy in many directions. We need policy, as I was saying, to equip the workers with the right skills that are not going to be the same that were needed in the labor market just a few years ago. We also need policy to invest in infrastructure, not only internet infrastructure, which of course is essential, but also other basic infrastructure like electricity, because artificial intelligence will probably increase demand on electricity to a large extent. We also need policies about data, and we need to develop good frameworks for data governance that at the same time protect people's right to privacy with the need for businesses to be able to generate value around data and to innovate around data. And we also need international cooperation because we see that there are emerging governance frameworks for artificial intelligence in different countries. But by definition, this is a technology that knows no borders. And there is a risk that if we have a fragmented approach to AI governance across the world, you may create barriers for businesses to use artificial intelligence in operations across markets. It can result in inefficiencies. It can also result in increased risks. And although we don't agree with some of the most extreme approaches to AI, people who claim that this is a very risky technology, we do see that there are risks for misinformation, malinformation, for discrimination, biases. All these things need to be addressed, and we call for international cooperation in the area of artificial intelligence governance. We don't see a lot of efforts in that direction. That is something that we call for in our report. We did a survey and we found that there are about 20 international initiatives, artificial intelligence governance. And the vast majority of countries, something like 118 countries, are not involved in any of those. And only the G7 countries are involved in all. So we see a trend to very strong concentration in terms of markets, because only a handful of companies from a couple of countries are really strong players in this field, but also in terms of the efforts of governments. And this cannot go on, because if it does, the governance of artificial intelligence will likely reflect the interest of a very small number of players and not of the vast majority of people, the vast majority of countries. There is also a need for cooperation in another regard. Artificial intelligence is quite expensive in terms of the research that is involved behind it. And we think that a model like the European Center for Nuclear Research, the CERN, where you can have a very powerful common infrastructure that all countries can use to advance in the knowledge around artificial intelligence, could be a good model for a more inclusive development of artificial intelligence, so that not only the few companies that can afford to invest billions in developing AI models can access to the best research practices in the world. Well, one important thing that countries need to do is to improve the understanding by government officials of what is happening in this field. We see that something that is very peculiar to artificial intelligence and that we have not seen so much in earlier technological developments is that everything that is happening in the private sector. So there is very little transparency in terms of what these companies know, how are they orienting their research. So we call for governments to make a strong effort to, in partnership also with the private sector through private-public partnerships, to try and develop their own understanding of what is happening. Because if you don't know the technology, you can hardly develop policies about it. Another thing that many countries don't have, and they should be doing, is a serious analysis of what are their specific strengths and weaknesses in this area. And I'd like to bring again the question of infrastructure, data, and skills as the three elements that are very important in AI policy. So they need to understand their strengths and weaknesses in this area, and then do foresight exercises to try to anticipate in what direction the round situation is going to evolve over the years and place them strategically. Very few countries have artificial intelligence strategies. They are reacting without careful consideration of what are the implications, and they need to really take a longer term perspective, because this is a development that will be with us for many years and will have very long-term implications. So they need to be ready in that sense. At the government level, people need to understand much better than they do now what is the direction in which technology is evolving. We also need to give the consumers and citizens better education about digital technologies in general and artificial intelligence in particular, so that they become more aware of the real risks that are involved in this technology. There is a lot of talk about existential risks of artificial intelligence, that artificial intelligence systems we could lose control of them and create a lot of damage. That maybe one day could be a risk, but that is not the situation today. On the other hand, we do have serious risks about artificial intelligence systems that are available to the consumer, generating wrong information, which can have very negative impact, for example, on questions like health or public security. So it's important that people know how to use this technology. They know what they can trust and what they cannot trust. And that is a role of education, educating the consumer, educating the citizen, that the government need to take care of.